Okay, so moving on, and we are on time, so that's good. So next we have Trina. Are you representing Justin's office, supervisor's office tonight? Oh, and Eric, can you please unmute Trina? Or can I unmute Trina? Hang on one moment. Yep. Okay, you're unmuted.
I am representing the Office of Supervisor Justin
Wonderful.
Cummings tonight. Glad to be here. Thank you,
Thanks
David.
for Thank you, Trina. And with that, I'll just hand it over. Thank you.
Okay. Just a couple quick updates because they're timely. So we have the North Coast Service Center opening, the grand opening happening on February 13th, and that's happening from 3 to 5 p.m. We're very excited about that center opening. It will be not only represents, accessibility and engagement from the sheriff's office on the North Coast, but also we'll have sempervirens. We'll have a staff member seated there, as well as our county park staff will be there. So we're really excited to have that multi-agency approach to problem solving and just kind of that community-centered approach. There may in the future be potentially other agencies there as well. So super excited. We got some art on the walls. We're making it beautiful and ready for the community. So looking forward to that. The sheriff's office will be grilling smash burgers on that day, and we just welcome one and all. The MA, actually, the Museum of Art and History, will also open the little jail behind it. There's a resident artist there, and so we'll have some art being shown in the jail as well for anyone who's interested. So then the next item is the strategic plan town hall, and that's happening on February 24th, also at the substation. Um, and that's, the county undertakes this big strategic planning process. This is to get us to 2032. So setting the priorities of the county and steering the ship right. And I think it's a chance for all of us to weigh in on those priorities. And when we talk about community wellness, what does that mean to Bonnie Doon? What does that mean to our residents? And so, we talk about communications, we talk about fire safety, et cetera. So we want to make sure that your voices are heard, and I hope that you'll come out. I know that strategic planning doesn't sound like much fun, but we'll try to have fun together, have some snacks, have a good conversation, and also, get make sure that the priorities, are registered. And there will also be some top brass. We'll have some director level folks from agencies there. The sheriff or his staff will be there as well. So hope to see you. Certainly Justin will be there on those two events. Um, Other than that, we're continuing our work on anti-offshore oil drilling, anti-seabed mining. These are real concerns for the California coast. We all love our coast. We love our ecosystem. We depend on it. So this is something we're fighting Trump on this every day. We've got quite a coalition. Justin has really really been a strong organizer in this. We have all 15 coastal counties have sent letters in opposition. I believe we're at 12 right now who have joined the coalition, many of whom are financial contributors to the work. So, this is really important. Over 200,000 comments came in nationwide opposing oil drilling. So we want to keep it up. You can go to savemycoast.org for more info on that. So that's all I have for now, but happy to take questions. And we're working on so many other things, but kind of boil it down to those three for now.
That's great, Trina. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Just very quickly, do you mind restating the dates for the grand opening and the strategic planning, as well as
Yes,
the times, please?
absolutely. So February 13th, and that's from 3 to 5 is the grand opening. And then the strategic planning town hall is February 24th, and that's from 4 to 6 p.m.
4 to 6, great. Thank you so much. Thanks
You're
for,
welcome.
yeah, thank you. So well, if we have time to take a few questions now. If folks have a few like broad questions for Trina Barton from Supervisor Cummings' office, we can allow for 5 minutes of questions now, and any additional questions we'll hold to the end of the meeting. But does anyone have any sort of broad-based questions for Trina now? we're ahead of schedule, which is I want to run a timely meeting, but we're ahead of schedule, so we have a few minutes here. Laura, do we have any questions in the chat? Anyone interested? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm sorry, you're muted.
No, I
No,
don't see anything in the chat.
okay.
Anyone can email me anytime. Also,
Trina, do you mind giving us your
let
your
me pop it
email?
in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure, of
Wonderful. Thanks for the update, Trina. We appreciate it.
course.
Really important work going on with the no offshore drilling and no seabed mining. Thank you. Okay, cool. Well, if you do have any follow-up questions for Trina, folks, please send them her way. Or if you think of questions between now and the end of the meeting, you're welcome to put them in the chat. Trina, I don't know if you can stay to the end of the meeting or not, but if you can, maybe we can answer some questions at the end.
Yeah,
So, okay, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
you're welcome.
Cool. So we're ahead of schedule. That's never a bad thing. So we'll move, we'll move along to our next speakers. So representing the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office for our area, we have Sergeant Roger Galvin, as well as Deputy David Madison. Deputy Madison is the deputy assigned to Bonnie Doon, Davenport North Coast, as well as I believe Boulder Creek. So with that, I'll hand it over to them. Welcome, Roger, and welcome, David. Thank you for being here. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hey, oh, okay. Eric,
Thanks for having us. Yeah, I think Roger needs to get
unmuted.
unmuted there for
Yeah,
we'll tag team a quick spiel
that's good.
about what we got going on. I mean, it's I think we just kind of wanted to say hello since we probably haven't really seen a lot of you and introduce ourselves. Prior to getting off, I'm gonna pop my contact info into the chat for y'all so you can reach out to me with individual questions, comments, concerns, for anything like that that y'all have that comes up in your area. But we just wanted to briefly touch on kind of like
maybe we can just start with a quick overview of what we do and who we are, if that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
So,
ahead.
So I am one of the sergeants, one of our community policing sergeants. We have about 4 community policing sergeants spread throughout the county of Santa Cruz. So we've got one down in Watsonville, one in Aptos, one in Live Oak, and I'm the SLV assigned one. So my area is Felton to Boulder Creek to Davenport to Bonnie Doon. So I got a wide area. Most of our sergeants are on an island on their own. I am lucky enough to have David Madison working with me. So he works out of our Boulder Creek Service Center primarily, and that's where his office is. But he's also really involved with getting out to Bonnie Doon and Davenport and being kind of like the face that you see out there. People often ask what community policing is. So, the deputies that you normally see driving around responding to calls for service, those are your patrol deputies. They're the ones, if you call 911 or you have an emergency, they're going to come to your call and assist you. We, on the other hand, are not getting dispatched to calls for service. We're kind of embedded in the community. We have a little bit more time to work on things, and we're kind of, specialists on working with other agencies within the county, other departments, and trying to figure out solutions to maybe long-term issues that, a deputy may not have time to do because they're going call to call to call. But if you've got that house that's a problem house in the community that is an ongoing issue, maybe that comes to us and we can start looking for more creative ways to deal with the problem, whether it's working with county planning, code enforcement, or getting the supervisor's office involved. Sometimes they have some pull in some areas. That's kind of what we do and who we are. So as part of that, you get to see us come out to all the community meetings. You get to see us come to the parades. We also run our school resource officer program. So we have a school resource officer assigned to the SLV. Hi there. Fantastic. Her name's April Scowland. She's in the running right now for a national award for community policing. So keep fingers crossed for her. They'll send her out to DC. Supposed to hear in a couple weeks or so. But yeah, that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. I'll kind of pass it off to Dave to introduce himself and what he's all about. Just for my background, I've been with the office for about 16 years. I spent like most of the last 10 years in some sort of investigations assignment, and I got paroled out of there in March. So this is kind of like my little break to come out and be back with the people again. So glad to be here. I live in Scotts Valley, so I'm part of the community out here. And yeah, nice to meet you all.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and again, my name's David, and so I've been with our office for a little over 8 years now. So I've prior to coming out to patrol, I worked in our jail for about 2 years, give or take there. I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to come out to patrol. And I just recently got out of patrol and came into this, well, I guess about a year ago now. So they pulled me out because I put in for this assignment here covering Boulder Creek, Bonnie Doon, and Davenport. So definitely invested in the broader communities. I'm born and raised here in Boulder Creek, so definitely up to date on a lot of the goings on there. But we kind of depend on you guys up in Bonnie Doon and Davenport to kind of reach out to us where areas where we're not as quite as familiar. And in terms of other stuff that I do around in the office is, we all have multiple hats that we wear all the time. I'm part of our search and rescue team as well as our bomb team. So we definitely have a lot on our plates. But like Roger said, we specifically run our service center so that we can meet with you guys and discuss the longer term issues, and we don't have the same hindrances with calls for service pulling us away from said meetings. So we have time to actually meet and talk with you guys, which can, I think it's been a good engagement so far. I've been in this position for about a year. I think I was at the last one of your meetings last year, but that was kind of a weird quasi in-person, quasi Zoom meeting. So I don't think I got a chance to interact with everybody as much as I would have liked to then. But we appreciate you having us on board for this.
Great. Thank you so much, Deputy Madison. Appreciate that. So we have a little time for questions. Oh, Laura, did you have something to say? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were flagging me down there. We have a few, some time for questions, but maybe I could just start us off with a few questions. So I was kind of curious if you could talk a little bit about how the new service center or substation in whatever it will be called. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the role that will play in your community policing and how residents of Bonnie Doon and Davenport North Coast can interact with your office there. What is that? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it's going to give, myself and Roger, since we're both going to be staffing that office, it's going to give us certainly more of a presence up there. I don't know if anyone even knew where our previous service center was in the fire station right there. So there was definitely a hole in the wall that no one even knew really existed. So it's going to give us a good space that we can meet with people there from the community. It gives us a place where actually we can sit and we have full internet, phone, all that good stuff there, so we can actually do our paperwork there as well. Whereas before, either myself or Roger, we'd have to go back to our respective either Felton or Boulder Creek office to accomplish most of our paperwork. As well as that it's going to increase our presence up there in terms of like we're going to have volunteers who are going to be up there. And I think as Trina mentioned, we're going to be sharing it with a lot of other agencies. So if we're not necessarily there, there's going to be some way that we can get you in touch with the county and or BLM, whomever the agency is that needs to actually, be contacted. So there'll be someone there who can actually, respond to people. It'll be just a face where you can come and actually interact with us.
And I know the question of staffing has come up a lot. Who's going to be at the service center? And, obviously Dave and I will be popping in. Some people have asked, well, is there going to be someone dedicated out of there? I know, Sheriff Clark would love to have someone working in Davenport, yesterday. Unfortunately, our staffing right now is not the greatest. it is difficult to get people into this assignment right now. So, we're hopeful maybe towards summer, towards the end of the year, we get someone who's actually dedicated and assigned out to that area. But in the meantime, we'll kind of be popping in and just trying to be a face out there a little bit more often. And with the service center being, as nice as it is, it's a fantastic building and a great spot. I can already see that it's attracting our deputies out there. So, if you may not be familiar, the way the patrol deputies are staffed up there in the valley is typically every shift, day shift, swing shift, and graveyards, they have 2 deputies assigned to one really to the Boulder Creek area, one to the Felton area. But for all purposes, they go to everything together. And those are the 2 deputies that also peel off and tend to go to the calls in Bonnie Doon, as well as calls in Davenport. Sometimes Live Oak is a little quicker to get up to Davenport, just kind of depends on where they are. But, the fact that there's a nice place for them to land in Davenport already kind of attracts them out there, which is nice.
That's great. Yeah, there's actually a question in the chat sort of around that, right? So if this service center, it sounds like a nice resource for officers, for deputies, a safe place to go, write reports, whatnot. Will that be available for the deputies throughout, like across all those shifts? And then tying into the question that was in the chat, do you see that impacting or improving response times for areas like Bonnie Doon and Davenport North Coast? I have a hard time saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the goal is to get deputies out to that Davenport service center. The issue that you see, with the way the staffing is done, unfortunately, sometimes they end up in Davenport and they get a call in Boulder Creek, and that is problematic. It creates for a very long response time. But still, if we're getting them out to Davenport more often and they're there already, you're going to see quicker response times to emergency situations in Bonnie Doon or Davenport. And while I mentioned, Dave and I, obviously we are in a different assignment. We're not necessarily responding to every call for service. If there's an emergency, something priority, and Dave or I are in position, we go to those calls and handle them the same as any other deputy.
Great. Thank you so much, Sergeant Galvin. Appreciate that. Let me just take a quick look at the time, see how we're doing. Yeah, we're doing well, actually. I'm gonna keep going just with a few more questions. So kind of the broad theme of tonight's talks, or tonight's meeting, is kind of this notion of managing outdoor recreation growth around Bonnie Doon and in the area. With the addition of the Katoni Coast Dairies National Monument, as well as San Vicente Redwoods opened up a few years ago. We're definitely seeing increased impact and usage of our recreation spaces in Bonnie Doon as well as the North Coast. And just wondering if you would be willing to kind of speak a little bit about how have you seen any changes in service calls, nature of service calls, as well as how you interact with the public because of this impact, because of this increased usage? Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. From what I've seen so far, we haven't really experienced a giant uptake in calls for service related to the Chitoni Dairy opening or the San Vicente opening. I love the San Vicente area. I'm up there all the time. So I was on Empire Grade today when a vehicle crash came out on 236 Jameson. So I was in good position for that. But yeah, I know the community is very worried about all these people coming in. But I feel like the plan that was put in place by the Bureau of Land Management and us has been successful so far. We haven't seen a lot of camping more than there was previously with these new lots opening. I know the Yellow Bank parking lot is going to open up soon for that rail trail portion down in Davenport. I think I was just talking to them the other day about some gates that they're going to install. So we'll see what happens there, but we're closely monitoring every new addition that's made.
Great. Thank you so much. Just a quick question. There were a couple of questions around a non-emergency number for the SO. Oh, Lisa Shallop just put it up. If you have a non-emergency number, what is the best way for our community, our members, to get in touch with the sheriff's office for like non-emergency issues?
That one posted by Lisa there, the 831-471-1121, that is the best number. You will get a hold of a deputy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to help you out.
Great, thanks. And then, I'm gonna take the other two questions that we have here. So Laura asked, going back to your point about there's no more camping these days than there were before. I would say after the fires, we definitely, at least in Bonny Doon, we definitely noticed an increase in sort of camping along Empire Grade, sort of by the quarry, those turnouts there. Just curious if you have any um, comments on how what's appropriate for the public to respond to those types of campers, sort of what the law is around that, as well as how can we report that or interact with your office on those issues.
Dave, have you handled much out there on Empire Grade?
No, I haven't. I'm familiar with the turnouts that everyone is talking about, but I would say that if if there is camping that's going on, that non-emergency number would be a great resource, because that would actually get somebody's eyes on it. And in terms of the legality, I would say that most of Empire Grade is signed for no parking, especially in those turnouts. So there would be some sort of enforcement mechanism that we could have. I know the Bonny Doon Ecological Reserve has a bunch of restricted parking areas. So it would be certainly appropriate to. Oh,
Oh. Uh-oh. Did we just
Uh-oh.
lose David? I heard him say uh-oh and then he dropped off.
Probably got a low battery alert or something.
Oh
on his
no.
laptop
Okay.
there.
Um, that was all really useful though. Thank you so much. So one last actually, I think it's a really interesting question. And Roger, maybe if you wouldn't mind fielding this last one. So the question was, during the missing person search back at around Thanksgiving and over, through December, there was a question. There was a communication relay playing for days. So do officers basically, can you give us a little information on how your deputies handle communications in this mountainous area where we don't have a lot of cell phone coverage? Like, can you give us a little just information on sort of the technology, and do you have the ability to communicate in some of these more remote areas of the mountains?
Yeah, that plane was a first for me. That was a very nice resource that we were able to use for our search and rescue mission there. And it was crucial, especially considering how many people we had out during those early days of the search. To answer that, I think in most, radio reception in this county is tricky. There are certainly parts of Bonny Doon where our reception is poor to non-existent. The supervisors recently voted to move forward the next phase of a large county-wide radio project. So they're going to be updating and modernizing the radio system over the next few years within the county here, which is hopeful to increase our coverage to, I forget what the exact percentage they're offering is, but it's substantially more than we have right now. So we're crossing our fingers and waiting for that. In the meantime, we do have some satellite phones. They're not readily held by all of our deputies. Search and rescue has them. We can deploy them if they're needed. But other than that, we have the same issues that you guys do out here when it comes to communication.
Yeah, that's rough. Well, my heart is certainly with you. I identify with that struggle. So thank you so much for the response on that question. So any further questions for Sergeant Galvin on issues?
Dave messaged me. He said his computer had died on him.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Okay. I don't see any. Hang on. Let me jump into the chat. Yeah. So I don't see any further questions. Unfortunately, Rebecca Hurley couldn't make it tonight. We just found out. So we're going to have to postpone her portion of this meeting for another public meeting. So I'm sorry about that, folks. So I'm
going to throw my email and Dave's email in the chat here, just if you guys need to reach out to us.
That would be great. Since this is it at this point. If anyone has questions for Sergeant Galvin, this would be a great time to ask them. We have quite a bit of time. So Hey, Eric, would you mind?
Um,
Okay.
isn't there a Starlink mobile service where people use it when they're camping and things like that that could
Yeah,
possibly work in Bonnie Doon?
yeah. So our search and rescue team does have a Starlink as well that was kind of deployed out during the search. I think someone actually tripped over it and broke it the first day, so then we had to get a second one. But yeah, we used Starlink a couple times, and I think imagine we'll keep adding them. We don't have them on all our patrol cars though, although that would be nice.
Would be nice.
That would be nice. Yeah. I know communications is an important issue to folks in Bonnie Doon, and can be somewhat controversial depending on what form of communication we're talking about. But certainly a challenge up here, right? That's something that I think we all struggle with. We all discuss a lot on our folks know Slice. It's a Bonnie Doon Facebook group. A lot of discussion around the challenges with communication in the mountains. Any other questions? Anyone? Ted, Laura, Eric? No? Okay. Well, with that, does anyone have any follow-up questions for Trina with Supervisor Trina Barton with Supervisor Cummings' office?
I was just wondering, when is the trail on the North Coast supposed to open?
Oh, that's a good question. You mean the rail trail?
Well, so-called rail trail, but it's
So-called
only going
rail
to be a
trail.
trail for forever,
Trina, do you have an
probably.
answer to that?
We had been told spring, but it's looking like summer. Yeah. I can get a definite answer from Grace. Yeah, it's coming along though. I don't know if you guys have been
Yeah,
out
I
there.
mean,
It's
you would
looking really
imagine the
good.
volume would greatly increase once that's open.
Yeah. My colleagues Sandy and Andy recently rode from Wilder all the way up and as far as they could go, and it's really nice for particularly biking and walking too. Yeah,
Oh,
so probably summer.
thanks so much, Trina. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Sorry, we just had a question in the chat that said that the Highlander said the meeting start time was at 7:30. Yeah, so that was a mistake, unfortunately, and we tried to notice it on Slice as well as on the website when we recognized that error was out there. So we do have this meeting is being recorded. So for folks that have any question or would like to watch it afterwards, that's definitely an option. The good news, well, so maybe the good news is that both of our representatives, Trina Barton from Supervisor Cummings' office, as well as Sergeant Roger Galvin from the Sheriff's office, they're here still. So if you have questions for them, essentially the uh, sort of the topic of tonight's meeting was supposed to be sort of managing outdoor recreation growth surrounding Bonnie Doon. Um, Trina gave an update on both the substation grand, the service center. I keep calling it substation. The service center grand opening, as well as strategic planning that will be occurring in February. I have those dates here. I'm happy to put them into the chat. So, if folks have any questions for Sergeant Galvin or Trina Barton with Supervisor Cummings' office, now's a great time. Do folks have any questions? Yeah, we do apologize for the error in communicating the start time of the meeting.
I will say one thing. Part of the reason why we worked closely with Sheriff Clark on getting the service center open is increase in recreation in the area, and that's something that we heard consistently. We knew that we needed more presence and a dedicated space, and he absolutely wanted to work with us. So it was a partnership between us, the sheriff, and the community, very much in response to that.
No, absolutely. And actually, maybe the two, Trina, between you or Sergeant Galvin, maybe you can speak a little bit about how will that coordination occur? Or maybe I should ask, how does that coordination occur now? Like if there are issues in BLM, on the BLM lands or at county park lands, how does the communication sort of how do those agencies work together?
Yeah.
And then how might the service center improve those communications or change them or whatever?
Well, I know that the sheriff's department is in close communication with BLM on a staff to staff level all the time on different issues that come up. But from my perspective, having this center, having that proximity, the physical proximity, more often is going to spur the kind of proactive problem solving, but also the ability to force multiply in real time or address, triage a situation. But Roger could speak to that more directly.
Yeah, I mean, as far as enforcement goes, we have an MOU with BLM, basically cross-platform, that allows us to enforce their, particular federal laws on that property, and also allows BLM to enforce our county code on that property as well. So we both come at it with our own, unique strengths and weaknesses. So that allows us to, work together to eliminate problems. I'll say, example that we had recently was we had a call about someone who had brought a gun onto the Chitoni Dairies to go hunting. And hunting is not permitted in the Chitoni Dairies. So, there were some questions that came through to our deputies about, whether this is permitted or not. But we were able to quickly, get a hold of BLM, talk with them, get the explanation, and kind of relay that information and work with BLM to get some better signage out there so this issue doesn't happen again in the future.
And that was the example I was thinking of as well.
Yeah.
Great example. Thank you so much. And do you see the service center playing a greater role, or is the service center like a greater role in improving communication, or is it simply, is it going to just be I don't know, kind of icing on the cake, right? Like an ability for you to work more closely together, but do you have any?
Yeah, I think, the BLM isn't necessarily a part of the service center plan right at the moment. I guess there's some, there's logistics and money behind it that I don't understand. But, I like them. Nick Lasher, who's their kind of head honcho out here, boots on the ground guy, super nice guy. I told him, you're welcome to come to the service center whenever you want. I'll give you a key. So it gives them a place to use the bathroom, relax and rest. And, hopefully that gets us working together.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, they're certainly interested in being there, and they like the space, and they came out to the soft opening. They're invited to the grand opening. So that's a relationship we'll continue to foster. But obviously, Roger and his colleagues have a close working relationship. We just see the proximity as being advantageous over the long haul. It will take time to get that service center up and running smoothly, and with everybody developing a set schedule, et cetera. But we envision that being advantageous over the long haul.
That's great. And I know no one here represents BLM, so there's a question in the chat that no one may be able to answer, which is totally fine. But if you do happen to know the answer, the question is, when will the restrooms and garbage collections be operational at Kitoni? Do we have some idea of that, Trina, maybe?
I don't have a sense of
Okay.
that, and I didn't ask that question. We just met with Zachary, so there will be staff at the grand opening. BLM staff will be there. Zachary Ormsby is the kind of number one, and then Ben Hoke is his second in command there, and then I think some Rangers potentially, but I think Ben will be at that, so we will ask that question, and then they'll also be present at the town hall. So BLM will be there at both events. So
Perfect.
we'll nail it down in the meantime or at those events.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and I just put the those dates and times in the chat for folks that got to that showed up for the 7:30 meeting that was actually started at 7. So sorry about that, folks. So yeah, those dates and times, the grand opening of the service center is on the 13th from 3 to 5. And there is a strategic planning town hall. And I'm sorry, these are like brief notes, so not complete sentences, but
No, great.
strategic planning town hall at the service center again on February 24th from 4 to 6. So, and then there was one question by Evelyn, and maybe we'll sort of set a soft stop time of 8. That we don't need to go all the way to 8:30 since we don't have our since Rachel couldn't make it. So question from Evelyn, which is, can you provide any focus example? Let's see, are there any Are there other Bonnie Doon focused community policing examples you can provide, Sergeant Galvin? She had not heard of community policing versus patrol before this evening.
You guys are so hale and hearty. I rarely hear from Bonnie Doon, but David, maybe?
Oh, hey, Eric, can you unmute Deputy Madison, please? Okay, let me see if I can do it. Did he hand over? No, he did not. Eric, if you could unmute David Madison, he rejoined. I think I can do it. Yeah, I'm not host. So there we go. Perfect.
Okay, yeah, I made it back. Sorry about that. I guess the computer did not agree with what I was saying, so it cut me off. So here we are. But yeah, so one of the things I do up in Bonnie Doon is I work a lot with the Sempervirens folks, and so as you can imagine, they have a lot of issues with folks going where they're not supposed to be as a part of the new park they have opened up. Is they have just a fraction of their land actually opened up for public use, right? So I work with Nadia Hamey fairly frequently. She provides pictures of folks who are, stepping out of bounds on where they should be. And so I kind of have the time to follow up with them, whereas our patrol staff probably wouldn't have time to follow up with people who are going off the trails and things of that nature. So I work with her on that, as well as they've had issues with, their game cams getting damaged, stolen, or very recently I had a bunch of motorcyclists who were riding around on their trails as well. So I was able to track down they were all teenagers. So I was able to track down their parents and kind of put an end to them trespassing on their property. So let's say a good example of kind of what we do in community policing is take those that a patrol call for service would probably end with, well, they're gone. Whereas we'll take the time and actually be able to follow up with, the information they provide us and actually try to get a good resolution.
That's great. Thanks. Thank you, Deputy Madison. It makes a lot of sense, really helps us to understand much better how community policing intersects with patrol. Thank you very much. So Laura was asking, so I guess this is a follow-up question for Deputy Madison and Sergeant Galvin. So can you work to do a similar community policing response with people going off trails or where there are no trails on Empire Grade? I'm not sure if well, actually I'm sure you know. We have a lot of mountain biking on sort of the stretch of Empire Grade between really between Twin Gates at UCSC, but more so Smith Grade and about halfway up to Felton Empire. So can you think of ways in which community policing could help to address off trail and trespassing access by mountain bikers there?
I think that's something me and Roger would have to talk about. Is we certainly don't have access to mountain bikes, really access those trails in an efficient manner. But I think I know the areas you're talking about. It's just before the quarry. There's like an entrance that folks use, or it seems to be like a beaten down trail at this point. But I believe at one point it should all be part of the Bonnie Doon Ecological Reserve, to my knowledge. But I'm sure that no, is it not?
It's part of state park land.
Oh, it's the state park
Yeah.
land. My apologies. Yeah, no, that's something that we could try to figure out an enforcement solution. But I don't think we haven't discussed that with each other yet.
Yeah, since it is, largely state parks, they would, basically take the brunt of that, but we're happy to help and support them, with regards to enforcement out there. They tend to have better tools for getting deep out on these trails than we do sometimes.
Well, we had meetings with them, with Chris Moore, and he says he just doesn't have the resources to be able to manage that.
Yeah, they have an absolute lot of acreage to cover with not a lot of bodies, unfortunately. So, it's always putting down the fires where they pop up.
Related to that, how many rangers does BLM have on Chitoni Coast Dairies at any one time?
I think it's like 3, right, Roger? assigned?
I feel like every time I'm out there, there's at least two of them walking around.
Uh-huh.
Wow, okay.
Wow. So two. Okay. Wow. So
So
you're
they do have three rangers, but they're assigned to my understanding is to the Bay Area Parks area. So they cover a absolute ton of land. I think last time I talked to them, it was over 250,000 acres between the three of them. So, but they do have their park maintenance staff, whom I'm in contact with, and as Roger mentioned, with our MOUs that we have in place, when they're seeing violations, they're all in contact with me, and I can respond on their behalf. So they don't have a ton of rangers, but they do have a lot of staff out there all the time.
Thanks. That's really, really good information. Thank you. I feel like I've covered kind of all the questions I had lined up for the two of you. Hang on one second. I guess the maybe the final question would be, so how can the residents of Bonnie Doon and Davenport North Coast help how can we help your office and other office, other agencies with issues like this? What's useful to you? How can the public help?
And I always say, if you see something, you got to call it in. We get a lot of complaints about things, and I try and look at the history of everything that I get called about, and I say, how many calls for service did this generate? And I'll look at it and I'll say, I got no calls for service about this. So how was I supposed to know, what the issue is? So I know it feels redundant, maybe it feels, you don't want to call in about the same thing, repeatedly, but really that's how things get on our radar. We keep track of stats like that, and that's how we prioritize, what we're going to work on. So, if there's that broken down car that someone, shady is living in where they're not supposed to, and you call about it once and they don't get moved along, feel free to keep calling. You call that non-emergency number anytime, and it just creates that trail. So when I look and I pull up the calls for service every single day, I look at every call that came in, then I can see, okay, this is a repeated issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. And maybe one last parting question. Can you help our membership, the public, sort of understand how to differentiate between like an emergency call, right, versus the non-emergency number? Like, can you give us a couple of a couple of examples of, maybe the area in between where folks might not be sure about that?
I mean, I would say a 911 call is there's active danger to you or someone else. So, someone's in front of your house screaming at you, that you think they're going to assault you. Someone is going to get hurt if this isn't dealt with immediately. Then that is a 911 call for service. If it's something that, that's not going to happen, and it doesn't matter if a deputy comes out there an hour later or 5 hours later, then you call the non-emergency number. So, shady person, in the neighborhood who's not necessarily doing anything but looks like he doesn't belong, just go ahead and call the non-emergency number.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any last questions? We have 3 more minutes before we'll wrap up the meeting. Any last questions for either Trina Barton with Supervisor Cummings' office, or Sergeant Galvin or David Madison with SO, Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office? Okay, going once, going twice. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. It's a really nice opportunity to sort of get into some of these details around how you support our community, and how we can be helpful. So thank you very much. Thanks for everyone's time. And again,
thank you guys. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, thanks. And apologies to our membership again for the noticing discrepancy in the start time. So sorry about that, folks. So with that, yeah, thanks everybody. Have a great night. We'll end it half an hour early, and we'll see you hopefully at the next see your membership at the next public meeting. So thank you. Thanks, Trina.
I hope to see you at those 2 events in February.
Yep, thank you. Yep. And
Thank you.
thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good night, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.